Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about as we talk about what happened yesterday, last night at my hometown, in my home school, Morgan State University. How there was multiple victims of a major shooting at the homecoming ceremonies. We'll give you the latest, but we're asking the question, should there be more security at homecomings? We'll have that discussion. Also, we got to talk a little bit about President Joe Biden announcing that he's canceled $9 billion in student loan debt. He's continuing to try to make sure that his campaign promise has been fulfilled. We'll give you the latest on that. Also, Kevin McCarthy and what's next for the House Speaker's position, as there have been a number of names to replace the ousted Republican leader. But the question becomes, what's going to happen with him and just what lessons do we learn from the situation? And then later, good choice or better politics, how Vice President Kamala Harris swears in new Senator LaFonza Butler, but some folks are saying that this is identity politics at its max. We'll give you the latest on that. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Wednesday. Big shout out to my online culture crew that is checking in from around the country. I see y'all all ready to rock and roll and be a part of the conversation. And of course, today is Wednesday, so I'm joined by my sister from another mother. She is the attorney. She is the TV host out of the great city of Miami, Florida. My sister Suzette Speaks is in the building.
Hey, y'all. What's up, culture crew? What's up, Raji? It's Wednesday.
What's happening? What's happening?
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. First and foremost, Suzette, you always come either on the day of or the heels of major historic moments. There we go. That's what we're going to kick it off. All right, first, let's talk about what's happening in my hometown of the great city of Baltimore, as the city is reeling from the violence that happened last night at one of our major HBCUs, Morgan State University, as they were having their homecoming celebration yesterday. And 5 people were shot, non-life-threatening injuries, but it did happen. They still have not found the culprit of these shootings, but it has, of course, brought up new questions and continue to bring up questions about security when Black people, particularly Black youth, when we are in various spaces and when things are happening well, that there's bound to be, to some degree, some level of violence here. And we're asking the question, should homecomings have more security? And what do you make of this? You're in the state of Florida. Y'all have a whole bunch of Black, HBCUs. Y'all have a whole bunch of football games and all types of cultural gatherings. What do you make on this situation?
Yes, this was a harrowing story. If you were up last night watching it, I too was trying to get the tidbits from, the news, major news outlets as to what was happening. But I agree with Mayor of Baltimore, Mr. Brandon Scott, when he says this is a national issue. So we just see another of what is now 521 mass shootings now for the year. We're just starting the fourth quarter, and this is the 17th shooting now for this year on a college campus. So Morgan State is just, the latest victim, if you will, of what is a national scourge, which is gun violence and people who have guns who shouldn't have them. So there has been no one yet apprehended. This happened during homecoming. Y'all know homecoming is really big at most schools, but especially at HBCUs. Students were just finishing the coronation of the homecoming court. This is, again, a very joyous time of year. The student body is about 9,000 at Morgan State, so a smaller school, but yet very close-knit community. This was an event where there was family and friends in town to celebrate and to see, who was going to be crowned Miss and Mr. Morgan State. And again, they leave this auditorium area, and as they're leaving, shots ring out. There are apparently, according to police reports, 2 individuals. No one has been arrested, but 2 suspects that probably most likely discharged their weapons. And apparently it was a disagreement, according to some eyewitnesses, between 2 factions, 2 groups of people walking, and it turned violent. That this ended up being chaos, according to some witnesses. There was like a run for your life moment, right? Stampede. People are quite afraid to be in public spaces oftentimes because of the threat of gun violence. But again, to your question, whether there should be more security, absolutely. 4 of these individuals out of the 5 that were shot were students. And thankfully, as you said, they have non-life-threatening injuries. One has since been released, but we still have a bigger issue because campuses are supposed to be open areas, free exchange of knowledge and thought, and they're not fenced, so to speak, in most instances. They're places where people can walk to and fro who may not be students or who may not be authorized to be on campus. So with something like homecoming, people go to homecomings of schools they don't even go to. I was looking at Spelman homecoming. I was like, should I be up there for this? Because again,
you want to be there. You want to be there.
The pictures online, like, okay, do I need to be there? Howard homecoming. Again, there's so much history there, and people just go to have a good time and to connect. But yes, this was quite frightening. But there is a lot of, I guess, discourse around what prevention looks like on a college campus. I know in Florida, we have laws that allow people to carry on campus. So, there's different approaches, I guess, for different states and different cities and different campuses. But it was very scary.
No, this is very scary. And look, I grew up in that neighborhood. Morgan is in Northeast Baltimore City. It's surrounded by homeowners, people who are there. I mean, it's a beautiful neighborhood. I'm going to tell you, if y'all ever been to Morgan State University, it's one of the heartbeats of Northeast Baltimore City. I mean, right along Hill and Cold Spring, the campus is laid out. Of course, it's considered to be, every building has been designated, Suzette, as a national treasure, a historic national treasure. So there can be no alterations to the buildings. No one can break down any of the buildings. It's like set in stone that Morgan has this space. Their building, President David Wilson has, under his leadership, he's building that they have another set of like a new building across the street. They had, for a long time, there was like a McDonald's across the street, directly across the street from Morgan State University. And there was like a little shopping center. All of that place, like they had like a chicken spot, and all of that has been completely renovated, totally remodeled. And now they have like a Chipotle, they have a Starbucks, they have a McDonald's, they have a bookstore, like a Barnes and Nobles, and a lot of other, I mean, just a brand new state-of-the-art like shopping area for students and for the community. So Morgan is a huge part of Baltimore City. It's a major, major center for cultural events, sports, and it's just all around just, Morgan pride, Morgan Bear pride. So, but at the same time of all of those good things, it has often been at the center of violent encounters, right? And what we have found over the years, growing up right in that neighborhood, Northeast Baltimore, most of the time it's not even students. It's people coming onto the campus who have some issue with the student. And then if say a block up the street, there's a fight or there's some shooting that happens, it's like connected to, there's a shooting at Morgan, right? Now this was at Morgan, right? But the thing is, violence, you just said it, there are no fences, there are no gates, there aren't no large like here in LA, you go past certain schools, they got hedges that are like 20 feet high. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't even see the schools for some of these schools. And this is like elementary and middle school. So there aren't like those security measures. Of course, you got Morgan State Police, and you have a substation that's literally right on the campus, Baltimore City Police Department substation, not substation, Northeast District Station is right there. So the security is there. The security is there. I think, unfortunately, like a lot of other places that where Black folks convene, it's the culture. It's the culture. You know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, you got students that come on or other folks that come on these campuses, and it's like create this culture of violence, and it gives Morgan a bad name. But can you stop it? And I think that's the big question. We're asking the question: should there be more security? But I don't know if you can really stop it and say, well, let's put more security out there. Let's put more police presence, because there are so many police officers at homecoming. You're talking about thousands of people coming into, the nearest airport, BWI airport is probably like good 35, 40 minutes away. So, you're talking about all these people convening on the campus. It is very hard. And this is happening at every major homecoming. Now, it opens the door for some different conversation to happen.
Yeah, I do think, again, this is more of like a crowd control issue when it comes to adding security. Of course, every major event in most cities, you have to have permits, you have to have emergency plans, and you go over, what it is you're planning to do. I've worked on homecoming when I was in school, and we had, all of these meetings, with on-campus police as well as, the community police at large. And it was always, safety first was, the main goal in making sure all these people can come back home and enjoy. But as you stated, a lot of times when we see incidences that are associated with our HBC communities, oftentimes it's outsiders who either come in as, visitors. And we oftentimes see a lot of maybe economically deprived neighborhoods surrounding a lot of our HBCUs. We got to talk about that. I know I can speak about it in Florida, in places where, we have, Florida Memorial here in Miami, the heartbeat of Miami Gardens, again, producing some wonderful leaders here in South Florida. And we have Bethune-Cookman, of course, in Daytona. But when you look at the neighborhoods that oftentimes are adjacent to or surrounding our HBCU communities, they oftentimes are economically struggling. And so you have a lot of, pride in what is happening there. But you also have different elements that are sometimes, kind of associated with the surrounding areas where economics are involved. So we have a kind of greater issue at large in terms of job seeking, joblessness, and making sure people have an ability to take care of themselves, through this economy, and making sure people have opportunities to go to schools that they live right next door to and those type of things. But I do think there's oftentimes a historical element there where, the surrounding communities and folks who take a lot of pride in the schools being right next door, oftentimes are dealing with issues that are bigger than the school. And, I remember when Ed Reed first went to Bethune-Cookman, of course, he was not hired as their head football coach, but he talked about what he saw when it comes to, the maintenance of facilities and maintenance of the grounds, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, there are many places like a Morgan making strides, of course, to keep our HBCUs to the highest standard when it comes to what's going on campus. But I think there is a larger community-based issue. Oftentimes, visitors, whether they be folks from the local community, whether they be folks that are coming in for a good time, there's a lot of moving parts. So there are conditions that make it very difficult sometimes to control, safety in and around our HBCU communities.
And you know what? I'm tired of Black folks. Every time Black folks come together for a good time to celebrate, why we got to go into the spaces where we all are coming together? You got families, you got children, you got women, you got elderly, and you want to start shooting up the place. Like, how are you coming to a homecoming like, yo, this is the perfect time? You see what I'm saying? Like, that's the part of it.
It's a small rogue element. So it's not.
And I get that. And I didn't get, but see, guess what? The thing is, and we got to take a quick pause. The thing is, that small rogue element is dictating to perception and the interaction of how people see us, right? Of course, it's a small, like Black folks, we're not violent by nature. We could always say, oh, this is small, it's a 2% number, right? But that 2% can spoil the batch, you know what I mean, for the whole situation, you know? And it's tiring. Like I grew up in Baltimore City. We have been, I mean, years of like shootings, mass before there was even the term mass shooting that was applied to black people. Baltimore had mass shootings all the time growing up in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. Like we had mass shootings. So it's like for us at this point, we just do ourselves a disservice. And how many of us, and I know we got to take a break, but let me ask you this question, though, Suzanne. How many of us, and to the crew, how many of us at this point in our life, we've refused to go to major black gatherings because we always think somebody's going to kick it off?
Well,
we change our whole schedule. We'd be like, oh, so-and-so, this is happening. Oh, we got a ball game coming? No, I ain't going. Why? You know how black folks go. And we say this amongst ourselves because we know there's going to be some riffraff. There's going to be some ruckus. Somebody's going to kick it off. Look, we're going to take a quick pause when we come forward. Let's continue to talk about this issue. Stay with us. We've got a whole lot to talk about on today's edition of The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. We have been talking about the unfortunate shooting at Morgan State University in Baltimore City. This happened last night during the homecoming coronation celebration and this is the coronation of Mr. Morgan and Miss Morgan, a major cultural event that happens each and every year in Baltimore at Morgan. And there was this shooting that happened last night. 5 people were shot, non-life-threatening injuries, but they and one that's, as Suzette pointed out, was released from the hospital today. But of course, it continues the conversation about the safety of college campuses, particularly HBCUs, that often are situated in areas of the city where some people would say are not that safe. But this is Morgan State University, folks. This is my home city and my home school. This is the place where I learned how to get into broadcasting at this particular school of Morgan State University. And bringing my sister Suzette back into it, this is not a crazy, crazy neighborhood. I mean, if you were to drive through the neighborhood that Morgan is situated in, you would be like, you know what, I'm gonna buy a house here.
Okay.
I mean, it has some, you know, and you know, I think it's funny because being from Baltimore, you're exposed to all elements, right? So people are like, you know, some people, some Black folks, they can't deal with certain elements in our community. That's not me. They're like, I mean, there's no prostitution, there's no drug dealing in the neighborhood, right? People keep their lawns, they have a strong community association. They are homeowners. People keep their grass cut. Mail is delivered. I mean, some of those big elements that often turn us off, those are there. But there's always, and I think in every major city, but at least in Black neighborhoods across this country, there's no perfect neighborhood. There's no perfect neighborhood. You can say, no, in my neighborhood, we don't do those things. Unless you live in a gated situation, far out somewhere, where people are making a certain amount of money that qualifies you to even be in that space. If you're talking about a city neighborhood, I mean, you know, you got to weigh the pros and cons. Morgan is not that neighborhood is not one of those neighborhoods where you're like, oh my gosh, it's seedy. It looks, oh boy, look, it got trash. Trash is not on the ground. It's just not one of those neighborhoods. But to that point though, Suzanne, it's just like, this conversation, and I don't know whether we need to have the conversation with the next generation about this ongoing violence that we see, especially in major public spaces like our HBCUs. Now, I'm not saying that anybody that pulls the trigger is thinking, I'm not going to pull the trigger today because I should have pride in a Black institution. So that's not going to happen today. It's really about the convenience and the circumstance and you having a beef but it's still the culture. Willie, you checked in and said something. You said we don't have violence in our nature, talking about us as Black people. There may be an indoctrination of violence in our culture. And I would agree. I don't think that I think there is an indoctrination. We have a violent culture. You said, Brother Willie, first American culture, then music culture, then video games, then et cetera, et cetera. Mom said, don't play with guns. But that's not everybody's mom. But I understand your point. There is all of those layers, Suzette, in terms of the violence in our culture. And I don't know if it's just we can just place it there. I agree that those things take responsibility. But what about personal behavior? What about just personal behavior? What about taking personal accountability and saying, you know what? I'm not going to do this now. People often say, oh, back in the day, we had a street code, no children, no women. That code is out the door now. So I'm kind of at a loss of words for this.
I would like to kind of extend it to a representation of American culture as a whole, because American culture has seen that most, mass shooters are younger white men. So there are facets of our culture that we as Black people inherently absorb and become a part of because we are a part of the greater culture. And I do think we have unique aspects of what is taught about, machismo and masculinity, but so do white men. That's why we do see, again, a lot of violence across racial lines, except we are oftentimes the propaganda for violence in our country when it comes to the representation in the media, the representation in movies, representation, when politicians want to stand up and give speeches, they paint pictures that include us in our neighborhoods most often. So I want to kind of push back and make sure we are contextualizing it in terms of gun violence across the board in our country is
Yeah, I agree with that.
very important and really sadly growing issue from those gated communities because no one is really safe. You know, Parkland, when I think about Nicholas Cruz and what happened, you know, in Parkland, Florida, that is a high economic part of Broward County. It is a, you know, they have the highest property values. Those folks live, you know, in I have several friends that live up there. And again, they couldn't escape it. You know, however they tried, you know, we still had, you know, a couple very shocking mass shootings in and around that area. And the one that, you know, we saw nationally on Valentine's Day, you know, where Nicholas Cruz was just given a life sentence for, you know, murder of all those young people, high school students, right? So we look at Sandy Hook, we could look at all kinds of nice, quote unquote, nicer areas where people bought the house in the quote right neighborhood and tried to insulate themselves from so-called violence and still found them and was on their doorstep. So,
but see, I think that's the ongoing fallacy. And this is just my personal belief, and Crew definitely post your comments. But I think that's the fallacy of understanding how violence happens, right? Like the fallacy is that you can quote unquote escape it because it's controlled to a certain group of people,
right,
or a certain demographic or a certain zip code or all of that, or, you know, and that's not the case. You know what I'm saying? Violence starts here. Violence starts here. You see what I'm saying?
Doesn't matter how much money you make.
Doesn't matter. I mean, we already know that, right? Like some of your most violent offenders are people from quote unquote good homes.
Right.
Whereas for some black folks who should be committing violence, who you would think would be committing violence, they come from, you know, dysfunctional families, single parent households or something like that. And they come out and they become pillars of the society. You see what I'm saying? But the fallacy, I think the greater fallacy is that we can escape violence without fully addressing the human condition. And you can't, and without addressing the culture. Like you can't talk peace, and look at, going back to Brother Willie's statement, look at the indoctrination of violence in movies, news, mass media. How many of us, when we don't like a person, the first thing we think about is smacking them? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Just this ongoing messaging that happens within our community that says violence is not the last resort, it's oftentimes the first thing. So if somebody, you know, disrespects you, somebody gets your order wrong, you be like, you know what? I'm tired of y'all getting my order wrong. I'm gonna smack us.
Crazy. People at the drive-thru as of late have been really crazy. I don't know. It is our I don't know, shortness of patience and empathy in our culture right now, again, across the board. But I do think, as I tried to acknowledge, there are unique aspects of why violence is pervasive within our communities in terms of the context of, again, socioeconomics, as you pointed out, and other parts of our culture, rap music. I'm not trying to be, I love a first.
No, I mean, we gotta say, hey, look, man, look.
Again, when we
I ain't seen Dolores Tucker, but I mean,
again,
we gotta.
I love some drill. Like I will exercise some drill, but when I look at it, if there's no counterweight or if there's no voice of reason saying that this is not the only way, or pretend, you know, to be real life when people actually do end up in situations like this is not how you settle the score. This is not what we do. But there is no counterweight oftentimes to the, you know, what we see is like a more heavier, violent based, you know, expression. Again, they're just reflecting back what their experiences are. Some other people are making it up as they go along. But,
right.
You know, we don't have that balance of the consciousness of who we are in terms of the musicians who will speak to, you know, knowledge of self and understanding, you know, once you respect yourself, you can respect others. And you wouldn't do certain things if you loved yourself, because, you know, we talk about, you know, loving your neighbor as yourself. The condition that we're seeing is most people don't love themselves.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
About themselves that we need to, you know, kind of help them strengthen their self-awareness, etc. So however we need to be doing that, we should be doing that. And that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, we need to be doing that and teaching our young people more about knowledge of self, so that there is less of this, like, inhumanity towards someone who has, wronged you. And even, like I said, people in their 20s and 30s are doing it, like grown-ups. We say young people, but these folks who were shot were between the ages of 18 and 22.
Right.
So very young. But yeah, there are a lot of lessons that we can take away from this, but it's the community building piece, to see you as my brother, me as your sister, as I could be your cousin, your aunt, that sense of community is something I think we need to work on, however we want to develop it, in whatever programs and every ways, we can all contribute to that, helping to shape a young person. But yeah, I think there's a lack of that going on.
Absolutely. And very quickly, Mr. Esoteric, you checked in. Welcome to the chat, my brother. You said, my son is a student at Morgan. He told me he was in his room and he heard all the shots. He had decided to stay inside from all the crowds last night and was glad he did. So am I. And I'm glad as well, Mr. Esoteric, that your son stayed home and you're not, the victim, the father of another victim. So, big shout out for your son for having that, that thinking to stay inside. Folks, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, more conversation. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Your money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been checking in with my sister Suzette Speaks as we talked about just the unfortunate shooting from Morgan State University, one of our great HBCUs that's in the city of Baltimore. and it has opened up the conversation about security and a lot of other elements, but security of Black students on Black campuses. And just to kind of get a little bit more direct answer to the question, I think, Suzette, maybe we should think of some alternative security measures. It may not be more police, may not be more school police or even more city police. It might be just teaching a group of students how to become peacemakers when they're like present and walking around and empowering them with some conflict resolution or some violence prevention tactics that can be used where you're empowering students with other to do that type of work. It may be, I know there are a number of groups, particularly in Baltimore. We have churches, we have the mosque, the Nation of Islam, the Fruit of Islam, brothers who can come into these spaces. And again, working together with school officials, administration, brothers, I know personally brothers who work in that capacity, who have a relationship with the Baltimore City Police Department, Morgan State University, brothers who can come in during those major events and at least set the tone for peaceful interactions, right? Because when our people come together and we see certain people, we like, all right, everything is going to be peaceful. It brings up the elevate. Sometimes, as much as we call for the police to be at the security, some of us just have such a disdain for police that we're just like, whatever, I don't care because they can't do nothing to me. We just have this view. But sometimes you need some alternative measures, some new faces, a different group of folks to be on campus to assist to make sure that the events and everything happening. But those are outside measures. The real measure is to try to get our young people away from violent behavior and violent culture. I think that's it, and that's a much bigger thing to tackle. But I think that's the work that needs to be done. That our children, Black students, Black youth are growing up thinking violence is the way to resolve their issues.
Yeah, I think early education is important. I think there are places that are doing and implementing what you're talking about when it comes to conflict resolution, particularly when it comes to like middle schoolers, high schoolers, and understanding that, our words are powerful and they will lead to behavior, and how we approach another human being matters, and being able to think critically is, I think, a very important skill set that we have to continuously improve upon, right? And encourage our education system to get young people ready for, the real world where everybody does not agree with you and where people are going to, say things and do things that offend you. But we have to find ways around, this type of, let me jump to, I just saw a clip today with like a 12-year-old at a football practice down here, and people had been picking on him, and his mom had newly purchased a firearm. And while they were, some say going after him, going after his bag, his chips, whatever it was, he shot two of them. And I thought, wow, this young boy, thought this was a way to resolve his issue. And these are, not isolated incidences. We see them, we hear about them, and some parents are going to say, they have, spoken to their children about this. But I think there's, again, all these outside influences now when it comes to children. And parents have a very tough job. They have a very difficult job. Teachers have a very tough job in trying to shape the minds and hopefully the hearts of our young people.
And I would wholeheartedly agree. Parents, we got tough jobs. Teachers got tough jobs. But you know who we got a tougher job? We cannot allow our community. We can't speak for anyone else, but for Black folks, we can't just put it on 2 or 3 groups of people. You can't be like, oh, it's the parents' job, it's the teachers. No, it's all of our jobs. If you see young people engaged in potentially violent behavior, or they are engaged in violent behavior, it is our responsibility to step up and do something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care if it's talking to them. I don't care if it's stopping a fight. I mean, we got to think outside the box. We can't be like, oh, that's not my child. You see what I'm saying? Because I am a true believer in this. If you put out good energy, if you put out energy of peace, if you put out an energy of nonviolence, when you're handling and interacting and engaging with other Black folks, then that energy is going to be multiplied and it's going to be reciprocated. So at this point, like, we can't wait on the police. We can't wait on the mayor. We can't wait on somebody outside of ourselves. We have to take on the mantle of, I'm gonna handle this myself. And that doesn't have to be an individual thing. It could just simply be a group thing, a community thing. If you're at homecoming and you hear some people, yes, get the authorities, get folks, right? But at the same time, you know what I mean? Try to your best to use the best of intelligence. If you're in a large situation, hey brothers, can y'all come up? Look, we got a situation, brothers. Hey brothers, can you help me? Can we maybe resolve the situation? Trust and believe. If I'm at a homecoming situation and I got 10 other Black men around me and we hear somebody yelling and screaming, brothers, come on, brothers, come on, let's go. Whatever beef is happening, that beef is dead. Because you seeing 10 Black men coming up on you, hey man, what you doing? Whoa. That energy changes already. Boom, right there. So I'm just saying, like, we just have to, I think, just putting ourselves in a more peaceful, active mind rather than a peaceful, passive mind. That's all I'm saying. Let me get some take on this, because a lot of folks are checking in, Suzette. I see you said when these kids go to school in like New Jack City, everything goes and nobody protects them. The teachers, not the administrator, and not the parents. So what are they supposed to do? Well, Morgan State University ain't New Jack City. It's a college. Mm-hmm. It's a college. Nobody comes to college to start beefing, to kick it off. I mean, and look, again, I'm going back to my original premises that you wait till homecoming to start popping it. When you got babies around, and then guess what? When your dumb ass is caught, then what? Then you start to say, well, why they take up my baby? Why you got little Tay-Tay like that? Like, little Tay-Tay came up into homecoming shooting off with babies and children and women, and now we're supposed to be free little Tay-Tay?
Mm-hmm. No, I saw a program, and I know we have to take a break, and I was trying to find the actual school, but I saw a highlighted program in Louisiana. This is earlier this year, that was profiling men who were volunteering during the day at an elementary school, middle schools, high schools, because so many of the young men in those areas, and again, I don't have the specifics, I'm just thinking about this piece that I saw. A lot of the young kids had not had any type of, fatherly figure. And it was amazing to see the amount of fights that went down, especially at the high school level, and the amount of, behavior that conformed to the expectation of what it would look like if your daddy was standing in the hallway, or if your grandpa was standing, in the lunchroom, and the level of, again, self-respect that came from that program. I wish I had the details with me, but I thought about that when you were speaking of, our community-based interventions that we have to start to really think about, because again, no one is coming to save us.
Oh, nobody's coming to save us at all. Let me just, Cindy D, you checked in and said, man's inhumanity to man is totally seen today. We need a more harmonious society. How do we get there is the question. That's the big question. Thank you, Cindy. You don't like my music. You said the question becomes, when do they stop being victims and become perpetrators, right? So that's going further along into their story, right? Which is all well and good. But when you have victims' families, the victims' families are seeking justice. They're not seeking explanation. They're seeking justice. So,
Yeah.
What you say, Suzette?
That's a very deeper question, because again, if somebody creates a situation where they have hurt or violated someone else's, civil rights, then they are clearly perpetrating a crime. So I hear his point that everybody has a story, but sometimes, again, accountability is where the buck stops. So we want to catch people before they get to these states of minds where they are thinking that this is the only way to go about them receiving the outcome that they want. But again, the earlier we start, the younger that we start, I think the better the outcomes.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, folks. We got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation. Let's shift gears. Actually, we're going to shift gears on this, and I want to talk about Kevin McCarthy and the next speaker. Plus, President Biden has announced that he is looking to cancel $9 billion worth of student loan debt. That's for about 125,000 borrowers. We've been streaming his announcement, so we'll just give a little mention of that. And are we talking about a good choice or better politics as we talk about the appointment of now Senator LaFonza Butler for the state of California, how she was appointed to that position by Governor Gavin Newsom, and what does that mean for the future of the Democratic Party and its relationship to identity politics? So stay with us. More conversations up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Raji Muhammad. Make sure y'all check out the first half of the show as we talked about the situation at Morgan State University, the HBCU in Baltimore, where they had just experienced a major shooting last night during the homecoming ceremonies. And so we had a conversation about safety, security, culture, and the culture of violence, and so much more. So you can make sure you be a part of Team Replay and check out that discussion on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, folks, make sure you check us out as we're streaming there on our homepage at blackstarnetwork.com, but also we're streaming on Amazon News on your Fire TV. We're streaming on Plex TV as well, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're also now streaming on Prime Video for Amazon. So Amazon Prime Video, you can find us on Prime Video app under a live TV, then go to news, or find us at Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, then News. We are now available on Prime Video, and we're also available on Freevee. You can check us out on Freevee. Just find us under On Now, then go to News, and then you can just pull up Black Star Network. There it is right there. All right, folks, let's talk a little bit about what's been happening out of Washington, D.C. as first couple of things been happening. But the latest has been that the president has announced a new round of cancellations. $9 billion is what President Biden has announced that the government will cancel for student loan debts. That would affect about 125,000 borrowers. And I want to bring my sister Suzette Speaks, who is the host and attorney. She's the host of the Suzette Speaks Show on YouTube. She's an attorney for the state of Florida. But this is just to kind of shed just a little bit of light on what the president is moving forward on in terms of fulfilling his campaign promises. That he's talking about canceling this amount of money for in student loan debts days after the payments were actually restarted. When folks, after COVID and after, folks, a lot of these payments were deferred. Now these payments have to be restarted. And now the president said, well, for 125,000 student loan borrowers, $9 billion in forgiveness.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Hey, man, look. I'm of the school of thought. If a man does something good, you got to give him credit. And so, Mr. President, thank you. But the crazy part is, look, when you look at the number of $9 billion, you would think that would be for, I don't know, a much larger group of people than 125,000 borrowers.
Right.
When I first saw it, I was like, oh, $9 billion. Like, oh, snap.
Right.
Boy, there's going to be a lot of people.
Right.
125,000 people that have debt that adds up to $9 billion.
Yeah. That shows you
absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's a move that, again, Mr. Biden, president, is trying his best. For those who keep saying he ain't doing nothing about student loan, of course, we were excited when the $20,000 up to $20,000 forgiveness plan was proposed. I don't know about you, but I signed up and I looked to see what happened. Of course, it was challenged and went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they said, nope, you do not have the authority under the act that was passed when, COVID came around. They thought it was, something that they could continue to do and push for under COVID relief. Supreme Court said, no, any type of mass forgiveness like this has to come from law by Congress. So it has to come from the legislative branch. But nonetheless, Mr. Biden is fighting hard and trying to find ways to include certain borrowers yet and still. So as you said, we are looking at people, about 55,000 of this total are people who work in public sector, public service, right? So if you have worked as a public servant, check your account, because people who have worked for 10 years or more had been promised under certain programs that their loans would be forgiven. But all of a sudden, people started applying and they couldn't get through and their loans were still hanging out there and it wasn't right. So he has rectified what was a broken system, broken promise to so many, that if you did do government service or public service and public interest areas of work, that you would have your loans forgiven. He is cleaning that up. He's also looking at about 22,000 borrowers who are on permanent disability. There are people who, are suffering, unfortunately, from, whether it's illness, whether it's accidents, things happen and people cannot work. So about 22,000 of that total also are folks who are on permanent disability. It has to be verified by the Social Security Administration. Hence, you would have applied for a permanent disability, right? And shown proof, et cetera, and had your administrative hearing, et cetera. But those folks with outstanding loans also qualify. So he's trying to find ways, y'all, in which there can be people who deservedly, not to say all of us don't, because again, this is just a crisis across the board. As you said, only 125,000 for $9 billion. But this is a stride that I think, we can call a feather in his cap. He has now forgiven over 127 billion, right, for 3.6 million people. So for folks saying that Mr. Biden is not doing enough, I wanted my 20,000 too, y'all. I did. But the Supreme Court said no, not on that mass scale. He's trying to find ways to include what is a system that is in need of reform. So he's trying, and again, for these 125,000 people, again, check your account if you're in public service, if you have permanent disability. He's trying to find ways where he can, through the administration alone, not through Congress, find ways to forgive some student loan debt.
All right, a couple of people. First, Cindy D said, "I'm a public servant. I will check that. Please check that."
Check his sis. I was like, wait a minute, I should have stayed with the state longer. But it's real. And these folks have been applying over time. And over the last 20 years, they haven't gotten anywhere. So
who should get it? You know who should get it?
Who's that?
Teachers, police officers, firefighters, all of those civil servants, nurses. You know what I'm saying? Like if you work in that capacity, in a civil servant capacity, you should have your debt forgiven.
Well, look
especially
at it.
Teachers, especially
public,
teachers.
Yes, sir. I agree. And public service sector is what this covers. So
right.
If it's all of what you just mentioned, but perhaps some of them will fall under this type of relief. So make sure you call your servicer. As he said, the bills coming due this month, October. Here we are. And a bunch of people are scrambling to figure out, how can we, manage this payment with inflation being what it is and, all of the other bills we have. But we also have programs that this administration have put forward based on income. So even what you had pre-pandemic, you might think that's the best you can get as far as your repayment plan. But look at what your income is now and you can go, check out what options are available to you now. Because this is a very heavy weight on, I think 20 plus million, maybe more Americans left in this system that owe a lot of money. So we got to find.
You know what?
To do all this. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Susan. I just got to say this. Like, it sucks if you had to go to school years ago and you couldn't take advantage of an opportunity like that because of who was in office at that time. It sucks. Hey, ABX girl, you checked in and said it. As a Generation Xer, my generation who graduated in the 90s and senior citizens still have debt. And if you die, your family will still owe.
It doesn't go away with bankruptcy. There's so many parts.
And that's crazy.
President Obama didn't get rid of his till he became president. Like, for real. So this is a continuous... I don't know what you call it. Like I call it an issue, but it's not, it doesn't really capture the gravity of how it impacts people's lives. I know folks that went to med school, 200, 300,000, for med school.
Oh my God.
We want people to become doctors. We want people to, serve their communities and their passion for medical care and all this. But then you come out laden with so much debt. And if you want to be a general practitioner, for example, or work in, some kind of public sector, we need those type of physicians. We need those. We can go into all kinds of degrees at this point, but it's just very sad that, again, a system that affects so many continues to be so burdensome. And it doesn't seem like, again, unless Congress moves, we're not going to get any wide-ranging reform.
Absolutely. Yvonne NW, Ms. Gibbs, you said 100% agree. The people who work in the Department of Education staff, first responders, law enforcement, and other public serving members. Absolutely. Absolutely. You got to open up that space. Keisha Poole, you said I was a law enforcement officer and mine was forgiven after I retired. It's happening. Even if you have retired, check into it. Thank you, President Biden. Yep. Corinna, our sister Corinna checked in. She said, if you were old enough to vote in 2016, but stay your ass at home and now complaining about student debt, you are accountable for this mess. And now we all have to live with the damage.
My sister, she gonna keep it real. Listen, they're trying their best within the auspices of the president and the Department of Education, from the administrative branch, from the executive branch. They're trying what they can. But really, Congress, our U.S. Senate and U.S. House has to come up with some kind of bill for that 20,000 or whatever type of program to become fully instituted in our country.
You don't like my music? You said this was Liz Warren's idea. We should thank Liz Warren. Okay, don't forget it was not Biden's idea. Thanks, Liz.
Okay. Salute to Elizabeth Warren.
Hey, look, you know what? Hey, look. If it's Liz Warren, thank you, Senator Warren. If it's not Biden, I'm gonna still thank you, Mr. Biden, because he didn't have to listen to Liz Warren.
Right.
He could have been like a lot of other presidents, right? In that regard, he could have said, but he listened. And she put it on his heart, and he's trying to change some things. So you still got to thank the president because he didn't have to listen. How many presidents are giving good guidance and still refuse to do what's right.
That part, yeah.
So that's what it is.
Thank God.
Hey, how about
I'm waiting on mine Friday, but okay, we'll take this right here. We'll take this right here. Thank you, President Biden. We'll take this. It's a win. A win is a win.
That is. It's a win. It's a win. Whether it's through the kicker or whether it's through the coach or the quarterback, a win is a win.
I'm happy for those 125,000 people. I'm happy for them. I'm just waiting, Lord, for my turn. But yes, a win is a win.
All right, folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk about Suzette's favorite party, the GOP, and what's going to happen with Mr. Kevin McCarthy and what's going to happen with that House Speaker seat. Stay with us. That conversation's up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Got my sister, Suzette Speaks, and let's time to turn attention now to that major historic moment that we experienced here on The Culture yesterday. It was a big moment for us, too. It was just me and the crew, Suzette, and we were
First
going
time in
through
US history, man.
Me and the crew. That's hey, yo, big shout out to the Culture crew, man. We had a fantastic show. It was just an incredible moment of community here on the show where we just kind of just we experienced it. I think I think at one point since like my mic was hot, and like soon as the vote came down, I was like, damn.
I had just got home in time to watch it. I was like, I gotta see this. This is really happening. I wanted to watch it on C-SPAN so I could hear who was voting what way, and not all the commentary, on MSNBC or CNN
Oh
or
no,
Fox or whatever you watch. But I was
no.
trying to get the who didn't vote. I saw that Congresswoman Pelosi did not cast a vote. In
Right.
fact, there were 9 members who did not vote. But today brought is a whole new reality that we've never seen before in the history of the United States of America. Never has a speaker of the United States House. Remember, in the succession order, if something happens to the president, the next person that takes over is the vice president, and the next person who takes over is the Speaker of the House. We don't have one right now. Kevin McCarthy, as many of you who watched us here live now know that he was voted out of the speakership, a vote of no confidence. I think the vote number was 216 to vote him out, 210 to keep him. That meant all of the Democrats that were present, again, 9 people did not cast a vote, all the Democrats that were present at the vote, plus 8 of his far right Republican colleagues. That's how he got out. Now they're trying to spin it. Oh, the Democrats put him out. No. You changed the rules, sir. You have to remember when he took the speakership back in January, he had to negotiate after 14 votes to get in. He won on the 15th vote to become speaker. He had to negotiate with this very tough, hardline side of the Republican Party, led by the likes of Lauren Boebert, and Matt Gaetz, who now didn't stab him in the back, Faraji, stabbed him right in the face by changing the rules. One of the concessions he made was that one person from any party could call a vote of no confidence against the speaker. And after Mr. McCarthy struck a deal to keep the government open with Democrats last week, his arch nemesis, Matt Gaetz out of North Florida, said that was not what they wanted. They wanted to hold the line, shut down the government, focus on their issues, whatever some of these more staunch conservative, you call them right-wing folks, want the government to focus on. But some say they just want chaos. They're not really worried about 1 or 2 key issues, as they say. They want the whole system to implode. So here we are, 8 people out of his whole conference was able to unseat him. Now we have a temporary speaker, Patrick McHenry, who has come in. They're going to have to hold a vote. They're saying they need a timeout, basically. Right now, the government is on pause. They're coming back next Tuesday to let cooler heads prevail, right? To see who could actually muster the votes to become the next speaker. One of the shortest reigns of a speaker in our history. Again, Mr. McCarthy chose to put this faction of his party into play, right? Giving them a lot of power and a lot of leeway, supporting them. What is so crazy is that his PAC, which is the fundraising arm of what he does as speaker, helped to elect most of the people that voted him out, right? He has been successful, and that's how the Republicans have become the leaders of the House in flipping a lot of the districts that voted for Biden into Republican House seats. So all of that work he did, he had a proven track record. He has flip-flopped in a lot of ways. That's why Democrats were like, we can't trust you, bruh. We're not going to bail you out of this. It's you and your party. Get your folks in line. And it's complete chaos on that side. It's a civil war. It's a lot of infighting. But what's scary is less than 4% of that body. Remember, there are 435 members of the U.S. House of Representatives. Less than 4% are now governing from the sideline, basically sent him his walking papers. And now who wants this job, first of all, now whoever comes in, now he or she has to be very careful, because are they also going to be beholden to this small far right group and their wishes? And again, this has turned Republican politics on its head. The supporters of this type of politics, again, are Mr. Trump's base, right? What we call MAGA. Again, of the Republican side, less than, some say, a third, some people say even up to a quarter of that base is basically running the entire government. and holding it hostage. So who knew that someone like a Matt Gaetz, who himself had previous investigations, we only go into the homeboy business. I can go deep.
We gotta say homeboy business.
Like he's
can we look, the fact is that Matt Gaetz is trying to be Mr. Moral Authority, but you trafficking and you dealing with little girls
accused of all kinds of alleged behaviors.
Hey, I'm like 50 Cent.
Yesterday, I'm like, how did that get swept under the rug? I'm trying to still figure out how one of the other defendants.
Come on, Suzanne, you answer.
You over here holding press conferences. I'm still.
Wait a minute. I ain't nothing to figure out. You said how is still trying to figure out. Look, there ain't nothing to figure out. This is the same party that has Donald Trump as the nominee. 91 counts, 4 indictments, 2 impeachments.
Yeah.
Of course, Matt Gaetz, who is and I know he did that. I'm like 50 Cent from
all
Power.
All people are innocent
he did that.
And guilty. We have to say that. He denies all allegations. We have to say that. However, go ahead. Faraji.
Hey, no, I'm not putting nothing past nobody, right? Really? And I know this dude is shady. Trust and believe me, he is shady than Eminem. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy how this dude, and he says, look, CNBC put out this article because part of what they have, and we got to take a quick pause, but part of this situation as a backlash of this whole situation is around 2 major high-profile Democrats. Steny Hoyer from Maryland, the Democrat out of Maryland, Nancy Pelosi, Democrat out of California, right? Both of them were not ousted, but both of them were abruptly evicted from their longtime Capitol hideaway offices without explanation.
You don't want to run a government, but you want to play petty politics. And that anyone who knows the House building, this type of layout and what office you get kind of matters. And it's based on seniority, et cetera. And the first thing Patrick McHenry does is send an email at whatever time last night and say, vacate your offices. We want your offices to the Democrats, Steny Hoyer and Nancy Pelosi. That's what you want to do? How about you figure out who's going to be your next leader? How about you?
Oh, they already doing that. But see, here's
well, we can't vote on anything because we don't have a speaker. What is going on? And that's what you're worried about? It's very petty.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, this is going to be petty politics because there is that faction that you just spoke about that is led by Matt Gaetz that is looking to take over Congress in a very, very big way. Here's the thing around this very quickly, then we're going to go to our next pause. House Speaker, like I said, Nancy Pelosi, Steny Hoyer, they were both told their small but coveted second offices within the Capitol will be, quote unquote, reassigned. And this is the other thing about that. She was out dealing with, she was in California to mourn the loss of her friend Dianne Feinstein, which is why she wasn't there, right? So she couldn't be there. But then McCarthy goes on record. He had after yesterday's vote, he said that when he was elected speaker in January, Nancy Pelosi had promised him she would always back you up. This is what he said, if a member of the GOP caucus introduced a motion to vacate. So, but when that situation came down, she was not in Washington to help McCarthy out. And so he said today was a political decision by the Democrats.
Sir, you have no control of your own caucus. You cannot get all the Republicans on one page. You have 8 rogue Republicans running your entire agenda. You had to acquiesce all your power. That's how you ended up in this predicament where one person, usually it's a majority of one party that can call the motion to vacate the speakership. You gave one person, knowing that you had a target on your back by this far-right small group that wanted you out at all costs. They didn't like you anyway. And no matter what you did to get back into their graces, they still were bent on seeing you removed because you didn't do enough for them. They wanted, again, to hold the line on the government shutdown and try to squeeze as much as they can out of, the Democrats. And who is Kevin McCarthy to try to work with them and sign a deal to keep the government open only for another 40 some days. But
yeah, 46
he looked at it and he said, this is what's best for the country. And now he's being made to pay with the highest cost. If anybody should be moving offices, sir, you're no longer the speaker, sir. How about your office, sir?
And look, we got to take a quick pause, Suzette. We got to take a quick pause. But this is why I wasn't excited. I know that some people were excited. I know. Corinna, I see you. You said that you were so excited. You know, Suzette, you said excited. This is why I'm going to share with y'all when we come back from break why I wasn't excited. Because yesterday we talked about warfare politics, Suzette. There's a difference between what we've been seeing with traditional politics. We are engaged in warfare politics now, right? And this is no holds barred, no bump tradition, bump dignity, civility. All of that is getting thrown out. This is warfare politics right now. We can call it petty for the office move and all of that, but I'm telling you, it's warfare politics. We got to stay with us, folks. I'm gonna share with you my thinking. Of course, get your take on this as well as we continue to talk about what's next for the speaker seat and Kevin McCarthy. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been checking in with my sister Suzette Speaks. We're talking about Kevin McCarthy. We're talking about what's next for the speaker seat from the historic vote yesterday where Representative Kevin McCarthy was ousted by a member of his own party, of his own caucus, for essentially not showing the leadership that they think that he should have shown. Some people have even gone far to say he made deals with the devil and he lost. Matt Gaetz, on the other hand, the Republican representative from Florida, he took a roll of the dice and won big. Yeah. Now he got the seat vacated. Questions abound as to what the situation will look like, what's going to be the future of the House. And more importantly, I called it yesterday the GOP implosion, because we see what's going on with Trump. Now we got this situation. We see more details are coming out around Clarence Thomas and his biased ass. So you got all this stuff happening within this one party. So it's going to be interesting. But here's the thing, my take on this. Warfare politics is in full effect right now. So we just shared that Pelosi and Steny Hoyer were both just abruptly evicted from one of their offices. Small thing, but I think it's a little bit of one of those things like, we're coming to get you. We're going to make you look silly. We're going to put you in a vulnerable position. Then to have Kevin McCarthy not put blame on his own party, because why? He's a party man, right? He tries to stick with it. But he's going to put the blame on the Democrats, who some of the traditional Republicans have actually gotten mad with the Democrats for siding with the conservatives. Look at the mess that we're in with this now. Corinna, you checked in. You said, let me say this because Corinna going off in the chat, y'all. as always. She said that this whole situation is a disgrace. And it's being seen all around the world. But this is warfare politics. This is warfare politics. And if we think as Black people in this country that we can just go along and get along, or that we can still play by the same rules that we've been playing by for the past 25, 30, 40, 50 years, with this group of GOP representatives and political leaders, I think we really are going to show that we are out of touch and out of tune with what's going on. If we think we could just be like, oh no, we better have a war plan too. If that's the case. If that's the case, you know what I'm saying? Like Black people, I'm saying Black America. I'm not talking about Democrat. I'm just talking about Black folks. If Black folks got to have a war plan too.
Well, I'm looking at it from the idea that this former speaker wants to blame Nancy Pelosi. Well, he should be blaming Donald Trump, right? Mr. Trump had played a pivotal role in his election again when it took 14 different rounds of voting and he won on the 15th. He was calling him my Kevin, and he was calling people on the floor of the House chamber and telling them it was okay, allegedly, to go ahead and vote for him. But he was mighty silent this time around. And he didn't call off the dog, so to speak. And again, their problem is within themselves. The people who they have allowed to gain a platform and to become more relevant. This is not the first time a very far right faction has reared its head in our politics. If you go back to Speaker Newt Gingrich, he handled them quite differently. He sidelined them. They didn't get coveted committees. Kevin McCarthy allowed them to get seats on big committees, right? Committees that hold a lot of weight. And therefore, their style of politics, which you're calling, I'm calling it more like zero sum. Before, you could look at your opponent and say, we disagree on this, we disagree on that and that too, but maybe, there's something we do agree on. Let's make it happen. They're not interested in that. I really think there are some members who are actually wanting to kind of create chaos in a system, right? If they see
that's exactly it.
That's what it's about. It's not finding common ground. We got to govern.
No.
You don't even have a leader. We have to govern. Y'all cannot come up with a new name. Y'all got to take a whole weekend off to try to make deals and call folks and let people calm down, because there are reasonable folks who serve on the Republican side. But they have given so much.
But see, where's the reason that though?
Individuals, and now they want to blame everybody but themselves. No, the
I agree.
Democrats did not have to bail you out. Your own
I
party
agree.
has been hijacked, and y'all gave them platforms, and y'all allowed them to
and see, that's the problem, Suzette. That is the problem. Yeah, that's the problem. Why is it that it's like what happened on January the 6th? When we saw what happened on January the 6th, and then it started to really resonate in people's minds as to what really happened. Then you had some people who were on the grounds, who were busting up in the Capitol, said when the January 6th committees came and brought people to testify, people that were on the ground said, I don't know what happened. This is not right, bro.
Raji, McCarthy himself stood up at the day after and said the blame of January 6th is at the feet of Donald Trump, and that he should have.
That's what I'm saying. See, this is
2 weeks later, he was on a plane holding the handout, forgive me.
Mitch McConnell said the same thing.
Mitch McConnell, they can't trust that. They're not going to vote for that.
Look, that's my point. That's my point.
Good graces to the people that did stab him right in the face. Now, good luck.
That's my point. That's my point. So here's the thing. Because we seeing this happening in real time. This is unfolding in real time. Black America, especially for our Black political leadership, the Congressional Black Caucus, and all of those who are in Black leadership, Black political leadership, how would you advise us to move forward? I'm just saying this, and I'm saying this with all due sincerity. How do you advise us to move forward? Because They not playing. They playing for keeps, man. I'm telling you. And I'm saying, if you got a group of folks like this, and you can say, I don't even know how to break it down, but I think there's going to be a major fracture within the GOP, which is going to be, you have your traditional Republican, then you have a MAGA Republican. Hell, from the MAGA Republican might be a Trumpian Republican. I don't know. But there's going to be some fraction. There's going to be some dismantling happening, or we're seeing that as we speak. But for Black folks in this country that are seeking political interest, political power, there's got to be some new strategy put on the table, man. And I get it. This is not any shade to any of my voting rights people, my voting people that's checking in. It's got to be more than voting, because these people ain't Black. They playing for keeps. If they're willing to take down one of their own, disrupt the government during a time when the government is supposed to be shutting down, they're putting all of their chips on disruption and, as you said, Suzette, chaos at their own expense. What the hell do we got coming for us?
It goes back to who maintains the vote, because those who maintain power also goes back and draw the districts and create districts that are specific to these people. These people shouldn't be in office, but their districts through gerrymandering have been drawn specifically for them. So I do push back a little, and I know we got to take a break, that this is a result a lot of times of who does what when they get power. And again, I've heard it quoted, Alicia Garza's book about true power and what it's supposed to be for. There are people who understand that power is supposed to be used to improve the lives of people and to empower people. And we have a set of so-called leaders on the Republican side. That's not what they're interested in doing with power. So they have to make a decision. It's up to Republicans to self-correct. It's not for Democrats. Democrats are pushing back. That's why they voted no. Homeboy, get your ducks in a row. You have a mutiny. You have fire starters among you.
There it is.
Less than 4% of the entire body now has us in a place we've never been before in American history, looking up and say, whoa, their own party got rid of them. Who is going to have enough votes now to take the place? Democrats may have been, better off with Kevin McCarthy, because some of the people that's being suggested beyond like a Steve Scalise, who has goodwill on both sides, Jim Jordan and these boys. Okay, we're going to see what real governance looks like if any of them can get elected next week.
Hey, look, if nothing else, then black state political leaders need to figure out some stuff. Like, if it's not on a federal level, then black state political leaders need to figure out. There should be a caucus. I think Hakeem Jeffries met with some folks. I think he met with some of the Democrats before the vote happened yesterday, told them to kind of like hold their, and that's cool. If y'all got a plan, then that's all good. But
they are the majority. They control the votes. Republicans control the votes.
I get that. I understand. They
get themselves together. It might cost them next year, and we'll see the House return to Democratic control.
Hey, look, I'm gonna be honest with you, Suzette. Again, we're gonna have a year away is a long time.
We'll see if they can.
And it's a short time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we'll see.
What I'm saying.
We'll see.
We got another government shut. We got to take a break.
We got to take a break, man. Because hey, look, Janelle checked in and said, when Suzette speaks, gets going, she removes her earpiece and talks all over Faraji. Suzette be like, look, let me just tell y'all something. You know how you remember how the sisters be back in the day when y'all about to fight? Girl, pass me the Vaseline. So check this out, girl. Check this out. This is what's going to happen.
No, it's excitement. Sorry for the crosstalk. It's excitement. No,
I don't care. Let's go. Let's go. No, stay with us, man. It's the culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Let me bring my sister back into the frame here. Hey, look, politics, man, this stuff is crazy. But look, with all due seriousness, though, Suzette, here's the thing: as we talk about what's next for the speaker seat, I'm not just looking at this current, even though this is a historic moment. It's part of a larger, bigger picture to me. Mm-hmm. And what my concern is, I don't think anyone can gloat. I don't think that anyone can be like, yeah, this is a victory. The way things are in our political, whether it's our political discourse or what we're seeing, this is all very telling. This is concerning. And in some cases, it's just outright like, is this really happening? This is not a time to gloat. I don't care from either side, because it could be a win for the Republicans today and a loss for Democrats tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? It's
president.
You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, I think we should all take a step back and really look at the dynamics at play here, the forces at play here, where our system is falling. The two major parties, you have these two major parties. Let's look at this GOP. But the GOP is a major, major party that is crumbling. It's falling in on itself. And this is the state of our political democracy. We often talk about the government in other countries. We talk about, the unstable governments of other countries. There are political and social scientists that have been looking at the state of democracy. Even when back in 2016, ever since Trump got into office and things have gotten more and more exacerbated.
Obama got elected.
Or even Obama. There you go. Great point. When Obama got elected, so you're talking about 2008 up to 2023, so 15 years. And they are saying that the things, and this is not me making this stuff up, folks. Y'all can go read it. Social and political scientists are saying that the things that we're seeing are leading to an unstable government, either civil war, or you're going to have government factions that will start to emerge. And guess what? People are going to start to take sides, and we're going to see clashes within the government. You see what I'm saying? We don't have the liberty, nor can we say it with good conscience to to offend another country's government when our government is falling apart. Like, I know that we are still a little bit over a year away from this national election. And look at how fast, like, we never thought we would be in a space like this. So I'm just saying, for us as Black folks in this country, and for all of those who are not a part of the community, but are just tuning in, this is a serious, serious situation. Like, yeah, we can kind of laugh and joke about some things, but in the big scheme of things, this is very serious, because this is our life. This is talking about the sustainability of law and order in this country. This is talking about the Constitution. Whether people are we are going to open up ourselves to having people in government that don't give a damn about the founding documents and ensuring human rights and civil rights. There are some huge questions on the table, and there's nothing to gloat about. I don't give a damn. It might be a little political victory here and a little political victory there, but at the end of the day, America's in trouble.
I think people are upset. The Democratic side is not gloating or celebrating or any of that. They are looking at it like, what in the world is going on? I think American people as a whole who are paying attention to politics are also quite taken aback, to put it lightly, as to the state of affairs. Now, in my opinion, I would look at it as a chance for us to reevaluate and see that our values across the board, for the average American, I'm not talking about politicians, we have a lot in common. Basic trust of governance has changed, but I think if you look at the average guy in Ohio, the average dude in Iowa, the average dude in New York, the average dude in Florida, they are looking for the same things out of life and expect similar things from their government. Again, we have this political class that has now set a table that we may see, and I wouldn't go as far as saying civil war. I hear my dad talk about it, but I think it will open the door for political violence, like we've seen for sure.
Oh yeah,
seen it,
great point. Great point.
And beyond. But I think as a whole, if we get beyond the memes and the talking points, Americans have more in common than we do. That these small, again, very fractionalized groups that are kind of breakaway. Really kind of outlier thinking, but they have voters, right? They have districts cut for them, and they have voters that are saying, I'm not agreeing with what America is going towards, the new diversity, the new economics, more people having access to, different types of leadership, whatever that is. There are people who, in fact, don't like what's happening. And so you get this extreme right. But I think there are a lot of us sitting in the middle who do say, as a whole, we have a lot more that, again, we can work together on than we need to go to your corner, go to my corner, and never look at what we have in common. Again, we have this mentality among those who have been given life by the former speaker and entertaining their foolishness, entertaining their very out of the ordinary, far right politics. They are now making them more powerful than they ought to be within the Republican caucus. And because Republicans control the House, they are now in complete disarray. So I don't think anybody's celebrating this. Kevin McCarthy did this to himself.
Oh yeah. No doubt. And I'm not saying it. And I'm not saying it.
Sitting at their table and allowing him to sit with these people. What happens when evil prevails is because good men have done nothing. So if his style of leadership is to look at this, again, far right fraction, less than 4%, voted him out and say, oh, I'm gonna blame Nancy. No, ma'am. No, sir. No. Let's look at who you gave life to and gave credibility.
But see, that's the thing, though, Suzette.
have outshined you. I see Matt Gaetz on the steps giving with a gaggle of 100 press running behind him, trying to figure out what the Republicans are going to do. Is he the leader?
That's what I'm saying. Hey, look, Suzette, very quickly. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Here's a man, and this is the same type of like trance, and I can't think of any other word to describe it. This is the same trance that we have been seeing with Donald Trump. You got a party, Kevin McCarthy still going after the Democrats when your brother from your same party stabbed you, as you said, stabbed you in the face. You can't see that him stabbing you in the face, so you're going to still go after the same. And okay, fine, that's what it is. But the same thing is that's what we see with Trump. That you got a man, you got a guy that's bringing all this baggage to the table, and yet you are still saying he's the best man qualified for the job. You are in a state of denial. And that's what's going to take this thing even further into a more extreme space, because you don't want to accept the truth. And you want the American people to believe this BS. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? You're trying to change the narrative. We're looking right at it. Yeah. And that's the part about it. It's like, bro, we're looking, we see people climbing the walls and y'all say it's tourists. What the hell are you talking about? And see, that right there is going to put all of us in a position where, I'm saying, for good conscience, black people, white people in this country, Asian, Latino, if we got conscience and we want to see a better place, we can't be silent. Now, that could mean, to as my sister Corinne always checked me, she's like, Faraji, just don't try to disparage people from voting. That means that you do need to vote, but at the same time, we got to put other things in action along with the voting, right? So it's like, we can't be silent at this time. And I know this is a huge change for us as citizens that we are in this position, but look at the leadership. The leadership has unfortunately put us in a position where we have lost trust in our institution. We do not believe what comes out of the mouths of political leaders. We have lost trust in this idea of democracy. Why? Because sometimes bad leadership is worse than no leadership at all. Because it leaves a scar.
Yeah. And again, sometimes you can't come back so easily from it. Hello, Florida. Just as a quick side note, and what you're saying is very powerful, brother. We also see there are rules that the leader of the House does not have to be a member of the House of Representatives. It can be any other individual. So we are seeing names that are being floated that are not members of that body, not elected, as far right as, again, Mr. Trump from that side, as well as like a Liz Cheney. But remember, people like Liz Cheney, who as a Republican paid the highest price for calling out Mr. Trump and the shenanigans that took place leading up to and on January 6th to overthrow a duly elected president of the United States. You know, she was primaried. They put somebody in her race to run against her, and Mr. Trump and those that follow him endorsed that person, and she lost her seat. The couple of hardline, trying to take a stand, Republicans who stood up to what has been going on have lost their seats and are no longer serving. So again, they have a crisis in leadership for sure. And this is an identity crisis as well.
Very quickly, there's been, and our team here has told us that they are trying to float around the idea of putting Trump in, or having Trump as a Speaker of the House. From your understanding, how would that work? And I'm not giving too much. This is like rumors and stuff.
It's all about the votes. He'd have to get the votes. You need 218. So if he got that 218, it's possible. Right?
Wow.
As duly nominated.
Even with all of his legal issues, he could still be essentially, and he's out of office, so he's not considered to be.
No, you don't have to be a member of the House of Representatives to be the Speaker of the House.
Wow.
So people can be outside of that. So so it can be a totally neutral person that has government experience or has business experience or has a respect of both parties so that they can get the business of the people done. But what again is on the line, budgetarily speaking, while we have no leadership, in our U.S., the People's House, right? Again, this is the body that is the larger house based on population. Each of these districts are drawn, right? So you have a state of 40 million like California. They have more Congress people than a smaller state with a few 100,000 people, unlike the Senate, which is the stronger body, 2 per state, no matter how many people live in that state, right? So we're looking again at what cannot happen while we await a new speaker. And again, we have made promises and commitments to allies such as Ukraine, to others around the world, that this small faction of the Republican Party is going to use the power and the role of their small but very obviously powerful caucus of saying, we don't want to keep funding Ukraine. We don't want to do anything but form, a stronger border and certain things that they say they stand for. That's what they say. And so therefore, they're not going to do business with the new person who is nominated unless they get what they want. This is a very dangerous time for us to see, again, the crisis of leadership on the majority side. They have the most votes. That's why they elected their speaker. But the very own party ousted the speaker. So while this is happening, we don't have the business of the people that should be happening. We have debts and obligations, all kinds of stuff. Again, the government is looking at a shutdown in a few weeks. And in the meantime, they're over here, causing a chaos within their own party. Again, it's really disheartening. But once again, the ballot box for me is a cornerstone strategy, yet and still how our Democratic side does respond to who's going to be nominated is going to also be a part of the strategy. But yeah, we created this issue. I just want to be very clear on who created this issue that we see. And again,
no, you're right.
Given to us, again, we all live in this country and we're looking at the House of Representatives, the People's House, for their leadership. And right now we don't have one, but that is strictly because those 8 people had the power to unseat the leader that had been chosen in January. So we'll see who comes up in the ranks and who's next week.
Culture Crew member, very quickly, Culture Crew member Sophia Maybank said that that Kevin McCarthy was essentially trying to do the right thing and keep the government open. He was trying to do the right thing, right? But let me just share this with you, Sophia. You may have seen this. Donald Trump, when he was asked questions about the government shutdown, do you know what this man actually said? He said, let it shut down. And I'm only bringing this up to show you the mindset, not just of him, but those who want to create chaos and disorder. And again, we got to be clear about where we stand as Black America, right? But that's his mindset. He's like, let it shut it down. So how far will that situation go? Also, my producer, Lise, she said that the Constitution does not explicitly require, you just made this point, does not explicitly require for the Speaker of the House to be a member. So now we might have to have a constitutional convention at some point, because it keeps going back to I'm seeing the common thread that it always keeps going back to the Constitution. Since that founding document did not detail things, there's so much up for interpretation that it leaves big holes for possible rebellion, big holes for possible extremism. And that's what some political scientists are now starting to say more and more of, Suzette, that the Constitution might actually be part of the problem. Come on, man. We don't have enough time to get into it. Yeah, that's what
the party system that we have in the Republican side, in terms of how they are choosing to not govern and not regulate themselves, is the key issue here. So when we're looking at, again, the Constitution does allow for people who are not elected in the United States House of Representatives to serve as speaker, right? There were parts of our history where former presidents were asked to come in and help out. We need someone here who has the respect of both sides of the aisle. It's not unusual. But what is unusual is allowing this very minority view, small, far right, extremist part of your caucus, the Republican caucus, to control the agenda. That's the problem.
That's it.
So if they don't get whip their votes and get people in line, this is not going to be the first and this won't be the last. Those folks on the far right have a lot of power, and that's because they've been given it by the leadership they've had in the past, Mr. Trump, Mr. McCarthy, and others.
You got the final word on that. So my sister Suzette, make sure y'all check her out. I appreciate my culture crew. Y'all checking in, sticking around a few extra minutes as we have these conversations. But look, I'm gonna just tell y'all, I'm gonna keep it real. Me and Suzette get on. It's like this because these conversations are so important. And I want y'all to understand, like, not a lot of other spaces. I don't know of any other spaces having these type of the tone, the nature of these conversations, the way we're having it. And it's not to boost us. It's just to show you that this is important. Like, this is Black media. We got to talk to Black folks, right? But for those who may not be Black, join us in the conversation. But come in here with conscience, understand that this is very serious because we have always been on the back end. We've always taken the brunt of this. And so when we're looking at this, there's the old saying, when white America gets a cold, Black people have pneumonia. Mm-hmm. We might be finding ourselves in a situation like this, that when white America it has a cold, then Black America, if white America has pneumonia, then Black America, we just, woo.
We're on life support, Raj.
We're on life support.
God help us all. But no, this
we is but the whole country is on life support. I mean, and this is, again, this is not to make fun. I don't get no benefit from saying, I'm looking at this and saying, like, yo, how do we really change this? And I'm serious, like, how do we really change the course of how do we save ourselves? And yeah, we could talk about saving democracy because we are all still entrenched in this system. So this is not a like, oh, no, we got one. Or this is not about victory and losses. This is about, yo, we're looking at something that is very historic and something that's very big and it's outside of ourselves. And how do we prepare for it? Like, seriously, how do we prepare for this breakdown, this disruption, this chaos that is continuing to ensue within our American government?
Right.
It's a very, very dire situation. Look, Suzette, speak.
We're here having these conversations, Raji. It's
absolutely. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely. Y'all make sure y'all follow my sister Suzette. Y'all can see her on social media. Follow her, Suzette Speak.
Please.
Yeah, subscribe. She's y'all hear what she brings to the table. She's dynamic.
Thank you.
She's dynamic and she loves the crew. And more importantly, she loves just putting out there good information, stuff that we can actually hold on to and actually, benefit from. So big shout out to my sister Suzette Speaks once again. Suzette, thank you so much for being so good for the culture.
My pleasure. See y'all soon. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank you for spending some extra time with us. Make sure y'all continue to support us here on the Black Star Network. I see them likes are up. There we go. Make sure y'all like every show that really resonate with you. I'm not forcing you to like us. I'm not begging you to like us. But look, if something resonates with you, please show your support. Like us on the show that helps with the algorithms. But most importantly, do your part to continue to propel this digital space, this digital movement we are embarked upon. And your support means everything to us. So go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media and financially, whatever you can give, please give something to help us to continue to have these conversations in a more unfiltered, unapologetic way. But your support means everything to us. And for those who have already supported, thank you. We truly, truly love you and appreciate you for that support. Big shout out to my production team. I want to thank Joel, Shannon, Maddie, Chris, Lise, and my man King Keenan for making today's production happen. And again, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. is Roland Martin Unfiltered. Follow me on social media at The Real Faraji. And as always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will be back tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a great afternoon and evening. Peace.